The crowd laughed when the sack-covered woman was dragged onto the wooden platform, but the lonely lumberjack standing at the edge of the auction ground felt something tighten in his chest. In a place where people were bought for the price of old tools and broken animals, he was about to spend his last $2 on a woman whose face he had never seen, and that single choice would quietly change two broken lives forever. Before the story goes deeper, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love that grows in the most unexpected places, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel True Love Story. Your support keeps stories like this alive. The lumberjack had lived most of his life surrounded by trees, not people. His small cabin sat deep in the forest, where mornings began with cold air and evenings ended with aching hands. He had no family left, no wife waiting at home, and no one who asked if he was safe when storms rolled in. Years of loss had taught him not to expect much from life. He worked, ate, slept, and repeated the same routine, believing that loneliness was simply his fate. The town nearby barely noticed him, except when he came to sell wood or buy flour. He was invisible, and in many ways, he had learned to accept that. The auction was not meant for him. He had only gone to town that day to trade timber and head back before nightfall. But curiosity pulled him toward the noisy crowd near the old barn. People shouted prices, laughter echoed, and something about the chaos felt wrong. That was when he saw her. A woman stood stiffly on the platform with a sack pulled tightly over her head, her hands trembling, her posture small. She did not move like someone expecting rescue. She stood like someone who had already accepted whatever pain came next. The lumberjack did not understand why she was being sold. He did not ask questions. He only knew that her silence felt heavier than the crowd's laughter. As bids rose and fell, interest faded quickly. No one wanted a woman who hid her face. When the price dropped lower and lower, something stirred inside him, a feeling he had not allowed himself to feel in years. Pity turned into resolve. He reached into his pocket and found $2 crumpled, the last of his earnings for the week. Without thinking of consequences, he raised his hand. When the hammer fell, the crowd lost interest instantly. No cheers, no drama. Just a lonely man and a woman with a sack on her head. He led her away quietly, not as an owner, but as someone unsure of what he had just done. The walk back to his cabin was long and uncomfortable. He did not touch her, did not rush her, did not even try to look beneath the sack. He only made sure she did not stumble on the rough forest path. Life in the cabin was simple and hard. He gave her space, food, and warmth, expecting nothing in return. Days passed in silence. She helped with small chores, always careful, always distant. At night, he lay awake wondering why fate had crossed their paths. He told himself he had only done a kind thing, nothing more. Yet every morning, he felt less alone hearing another presence breathe in the room. One evening, after weeks of quiet coexistence, something changed. The woman finally gathered the courage to speak. Her voice was soft, almost afraid of its own sound. When she told him her name, it struck him like a memory he had buried deep. The name belonged to someone he once knew, a child from his past, a girl whose family had disappeared years ago during a harsh winter and never returned. That name carried history, pain, and unfinished sorrow. In that moment, the sack came off, not with drama, but with trust. Her face bore the marks of hardship, but also strength. She was not a stranger. She was a survivor. She told him, in broken fragments, about loss, betrayal, and being passed from place to place like an object. The auction had been her final humiliation, a point where she expected nothing but cruelty. Instead, she found a man who asked nothing of her except honesty. The lumberjack felt shame for the world that had allowed this to happen and gratitude that fate had brought her to his door. Slowly, their lives began to shift. He no longer worked only to survive, he worked to build something better. She no longer woke up fearing the day, she woke up with purpose. They shared meals, laughter crept into their evenings, and silence became comfortable rather than painful. Seasons changed, and so did they. The forest no longer felt like a prison of isolation but a shelter that protected something fragile and precious. He taught her about trees, weather, and patience. She taught him about resilience, forgiveness, and the quiet power of being seen. Love did not arrive suddenly. It grew like roots underground, slow, unseen, but unbreakable. When he finally asked her to marry him, it was not because he had bought her, but because he chose her every day since that auction. Their union was simple, witnessed by nature itself. No crowd, no laughter, no judgment. Just two souls who had found dignity in each other when the world had offered none. Their story spread quietly through the town, changing hearts without noise. People began to question old traditions, old cruelties, and the price they placed on human worth. The lumberjack remained a humble man, but no longer lonely. The woman no longer hid her face, but wore her past with strength. If this story has touched your heart, if it made you believe that kindness can rewrite destiny, please take a moment now to like this video, share it, and subscribe to True Love Story. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who need hope. And before the ending, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with the words, "Kindness matters," if you believe one small act can change a lifetime. In the end, the world did not remember the auction, the laughter, or the $2. What remained was a quiet love born from compassion, proving that sometimes the greatest stories begin where humanity seems lost, and end where two broken hearts finally find home.